come with me, and we've got a little 1 litre Ford EcoBoost that's having a wet belt. Horrible engines, horrible job to do, but the parts that we're going to be using to carry out this job are all genuine bits. We've got the timing belt, oil pump belt, the friction washer, the little rubber O-ring that goes in between the timing cover and the block, a new crankshaft oil seal, tensioner, and that is the timing toolkit that we're going to be using, the laser tool. Where's the part number? There is a part number for it there. First thing we're going to do, get involved, disconnect the battery, and we're going to make a start on getting the exhaust off it first. Now once I've got the exhaust off it, what I've had to do, these bolts here, they normally round off, or they're very, very tight. So what I've done, just drill 2 holes straight through it. It takes about 2 minutes to drill them out. What we're going to be doing is removing the intake pipe off the turbo, which goes down to the intercooler, and there's 113 down there at the side of the bell housing for the start mode that you need to remove. Now because of the time of day that it is, I'm not really worried about stripping all this lot down. I'm going to take it up in the air now, and I'm going to be taking the sump off. Now if you are going to be doing one of these, or you haven't done one yet, you do need to remove the air conditioning pump. Now the very first one I did, majority of you have probably seen it over on YouTube, these bolts here that go into the sump and the block, they did snap and I had a right nightmare, but thankfully these bolts have come undone. I've removed all the 8s now. Now you're probably wondering why I'm doing it this way round. We've got to clean the pickup in the sump regardless whether you're doing the timing belt. It's just one of them jobs that has to be done. If you don't do it, you're not doing it right. Like I said, I've taken all the 8s off now. We're draining some of the oil out. Well, in a couple of minutes we'll just get a bit of a pry bar in there and we'll get this sump off. Now I've got that sump off, this is a critical part that needs to happen. This pickup here, all the fibres that break off the belt. Now bearing in mind this car's only done 86,000 miles, the belt does look a little bit split, but please let me know if you've ever known one of these belts to snap, because I've not heard of one snap yet. It's always the filter blocking up and you lose oil pressure, etc. But however, if we just get a little pick now. What have I done with my pick? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Let's go have a little look for me pick. I don't know, I can't find it. Anyway, let's just get another one out. Let's just get that one. Now what happens in here, with all the fibres off the belt, they collect in there, and you block the pickup up. I can't get it. Can you see it there? That is all the fibres off the belt. I can't do this one, I'm struggling. But anyway, them fibres block, there we go. Them fibres off them belts, they block that pickup up and stop the oil pressure. Now I've pretty much finished underneath what I need to do, so we're going to jump around to the top now and make a start on removing the rocker cover. There's lots of little clips and pipes. Be extra careful with this little purge valve at the back here, because these plastic pipes can break. Now we've got everything stripped down, we need to get this engine timed up, and what I do, these little camshaft locking tools, I just put them on the lobes. You put a 22 on the crank, and as we're turning it, that should drop into place and sit flush with the head, pretty much. Now once this is lined up, what we're going to do, we're going to jump underneath it and we're going to lock the crank, take the starter motor out and put the locking tool in for the flywheel. Now we're underneath the vehicle, the first thing we're going to do is get the crank timed up. And how you do it, there's a little screw that goes in there, the timing pin that goes on the webbing of the crank. And what I'll do now, I'll just grab on the 22 and you'll see the webbing come round, which is just in there, and it'll lock on tight to that pin. Now that crank is timed up perfectly. What we need to do now is jump round and lock the flywheel. Now to lock a crank up itself, you need 2 bolts. This little plate in the middle, it slides down with the 13, but tighten these 2 up first, leave that one slack, and then once these have got merged, you've got to have these tools very, very tight, because if they're not tight, they're going to slip. And then once you've got them tightened up, you can drop that centre bolt down now into the teeth on the flywheel and tighten it up. And then all we've got to do is drop the vehicle down and just lock them camshafts up. Now I can't stress this enough when using these sort of timing tools, they have to be tight. Don't just put them in with your fingers, they've got to be tight. Otherwise it could slip or pull threads or one thing or another. And what I've done there, I've just marked the camshaft carrier cap with a camshaft pulley as well, with a little bit of blue paint, so we know that everything's going back in the right position. Now we're back underneath the vehicle and I have removed the crankshaft pulley. And how I did it, a lot of people say, oh, you need a torque multiplier. Yes you do, and no you don't. That bar that I've used, 21mm on the end of it, it's an absolute massive bar, and that crank pulley will come off. Like so. Right, while I'm underneath the vehicle now, what I'm going to do, remove crankshaft sensor. I'm going to do as many bolts as we can from underneath. Right, now let's move around to the timing cover. Now what I like to do on this is get yourself a little bit of a cardboard, because there's all sorts of different bolt sizes and lengths and one thing or another. Put all your bolts and you can label them. Like so, as you can see, they're all different sizes, shapes, and they've only got to go in one way. If you put them in the wrong hole, all the hell's going to break loose. Now, once you've undone them all, this little plastic housing at the back here, there's a little horseshoe clip, and that pulls off the water pipe. But be extra careful, so I have known them to break. You just remove this out of the way. You can. Let's get it out of the way, and I'll show you. The first one I ever did of these, I struggled for ages, and I mean ages, with this one bolt. Because that timing cover, I couldn't get it off. It was that little hidden bolt there in the middle. But anyway, it was my first one. What was I expecting to do? Perfect every time. Right, we have now got down, after a bit of a long-winded job, we are now deep down into the engine and we can get access to the timing belt. Now let's get this belt off. Now remember these sewed off pliers that I showed you about? They're brilliant for doing this. Grab the two little lugs, pull them together, and we can get that belt off. Just like that. Right, let's make a start on putting these new belts on. I'm going to start with the oil pump first, which is a genuine Ford one. Hook around that pulley there, and it should just slide on. It's quite hard doing it with one hand, but there we go. That belt is now on. I've already put the new tensioner on, which is torqued to 26 Newton meters. Now we need to go ahead and put the timing belt pulley back on, and we can route the belt. Now to get the timing belt on, it is very, very simple. Put on the camshafts, and hold it there with your finger and thumb. Go around the crankshaft pulley, bring it back around, and over the tensioner. And then when it's all, that belt's all on, and all the teeth are lined up like so, you can just go ahead now and pull that, and that belt is fully tensioned. Simple as that. Now the most critical part of doing this job is making sure that the block on all the mating surfaces on the block and the timing cover are spotless. But before we do, when you're ordering your kit from Furrows or Fords or wherever you want to get it from, order this little O-ring here, and that goes on to the water side of it. Put a brand new one in there. We're going to put a little bit of red rubber grease, and also we're going to put some BGA sealant on it. Now this stuff, I swear by it, is unreal. I'm going to put a little bead of it, and we're going to leave it for 5 minutes, and then we're going to put it on. Now how I put that sealant on, as you can see, it is perfect. In the nozzle, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, I put a little V, so as you're putting it on, it's similar to the windscreen lads on the wall, will know about that, but that's how I do it. It's a great little tip, and it puts it on pretty much perfect. We're going to give that now a couple of minutes, and then we can chuck it on. Now that is the timing cover back on. Now for those that know, it is a little bit of a faff because there's lots of little torque sequences for each individual bolt. It can be a right pain in the bum, but as you can see with that sealant now, we've got a nice bead and it's running in there perfect. Right, let's put this engine mount on so we can take it back up. We're now back underneath the vehicle, and what we're going to do, we're going to be getting the sump on, and as you can see, I've made everything, it is looking like brand new. Everything's got to be spotless. If it's not spotless, things are going to start leaking. Make sure the block's nice and clean. What we're going to do, run another bead of sealer all the way around there, and then we can offer it up and get it torqued up. And always make sure that this oil pickup is spotless. As you can see now, it's like brand new in there. Now the most crucial part of doing this job is putting this friction washer in, and it goes on before the crank pulley. Make sure when you push it on, you're not damaging it, and it goes in there nice. I've also put a new crankshaft oil seal as well. Right, let's get this pulley on. Now one thing I did forget to mention is that pin there. It goes in the pulley there, and it goes into the timing cover, and if you don't line that up correctly, the car will not run. Simple as that, it just won't run. Now to tighten the crank pulleys up on these to do them correctly, you do need the torque multiplier. However, I have done them in the past where I haven't, and I thought, you know what, let's get it done it right. So I've borrowed this tool off somebody, so thank you Taylor if you're watching. I have spun it around now, it's lots and lots of 90 degrees. It just goes, when you're tightening it up, it's just like, this really shouldn't be this tight, it's stupid, stupid. But anyway, it's all done now, we're going to get it off, we're going to finish off building it up. Now we're back at the top. I've removed all the timing pins. Make sure you put them back in the box here so you know you've got nothing missing and there's nothing left back in the engine. Now all we're going to do is jump on the crank pulley on the 21. I'm going to wind that engine over, make sure nothing's locking up and everything is as it should be. I've also put, if you remember, some blue lines everywhere and also a little yellow line on the crankshaft there. Pretty much like this. Let's get on it. Make sure there's nothing locking up. And all our lines are lining up absolutely bang on. Now all I've got to do is put all this back together. And there we go, that car now is all back together. But before we get on the cane, before we put any coolant in it whatsoever, we're going to be replacing the thermostat housing, because I did notice a pool of coolants and they are prone for failing, so we might as well do it all in one hit. And that is now the car all built back up. Before I get on the big key now and give it a big start, what I did was disconnect the coil pack so it doesn't start, let the oil pressure build up, fresh coolant. What we're going to do now, jump on the key. Well, it started, it's got 2 lead jointings. And there we go, that car is now running. All we're going to do is let it tick over and get up to temperature and make sure we've got no oil leaks. There you go, that car now is ticking over like a little Singer sewing machine. We've got some nice fresh antifreeze in it. The car's been ticking over for about 20 minutes or so now. The temperature is rising, I don't know whether you can see. 52 degrees and engine RPM is nice and steady. But anyway, that is one little, I don't know whether to say little, because it is a big job. Ford ecoboost wet belt replacement. Anyway, let's get it in.